Welcome to the Renegade Health Boss podcast, where we push the boundaries of what's possible in health and wellness. I'm your host, Heather Gray, a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner. And each week we dive deep into the world of physical, mental, spiritual health, biohacking, relationships. But we're not just talking about the basics. I'm bringing you conversations with the true renegades, experts who are challenging the status quo in their fields, breaking barriers, and uncovering the real truth behind what it takes to live an incredible, joy-filled, and optimized life. If you're ready to step out of the ordinary and step into a life of extraordinary health and happiness, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey to becoming your own Renegade Health Boss. And before we jump in, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Healthy drinking pure water is easy as the push of a button. Same thing with my hair doctor. Right now it's pissed off at me because I was doing my hair. So the fumes coming off me blow drying my hair is making it go overtime. But what a sense of just peace, of just looking over at it, knowing that it's doing its best to keep my hair the cleanest. This company is absolutely incredible. Third-party verified. They go above and beyond the standards of most other companies. Oh, there it goes. Look at that. Now my hair is clean. Make sure to go to my website, renegadehealthboss.com, go to the shop and get yours, or click the link below.
Thanks for joining me on another amazing episode of the Lyme Boss podcast. I'm Heather Gray, aka the Lyme Boss. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I know it's a mouthful. And a bioenergetic practitioner. And I like working with fast-paced entrepreneurs who have unexplained digestive issues, brain fog to the point where they can't concentrate or remember things, and lack of energy. There's no word in the dictionary to describe the kind of fatigue that you're experiencing, right? Could it be undiagnosed Lyme disease and mold toxicity? I know it was with me. But either way, I like to help get to the root cause of what's going on instead of throwing band-aids at symptoms. And yes, my name is Lyme Boss. This isn't specifically for people with Lyme. This is for people with fill in the blank, right? Diabetes, cancer, autoimmune. You could go on and on and on and on and on, because when you get to the root cause of things, it doesn't matter what you've been diagnosed with. That's what we're here to bring out into the light. And today is no different. It's one of my all-time favorite topics these days to talk about because of how much it's been such a healing part in my own journey. And then just these brave souls coming out and sharing with us, like this is cutting edge type stuff, folks. So welcome, Tah, from the Condor Approach, to the show. Thank you.
Hey, peace, fam. Thanks for having me. Grateful to be here, grateful to be with you, and grateful to see you. Sourcey Poo.
I love it. I love it. I love it. If you guys aren't following him on Insta, like I highly, highly recommend it. Like he is a combination of like warrior, heart, 4-year-old boy, like just amazing goofball. He's just an incredible human being, and you'll get to fall in love with him by the end of this podcast. I guarantee it. But tell us a little bit about your background, because I know you kind of have, like a traditional type of background. So you wouldn't think psychedelics when you think, nurse and this type of stuff. So tell us a little bit about Tah. What's your background? How you got started?
Well, I got started when I was born, and I was born into a family that was loaded with violence and trauma. And I'm not just talking about physical violence. I'm talking about violence, like violence in the form of self-deprecating situations, in the form of shame, and a lot of stuff like that. I see violence as a position where there's a threat of hurt, harm, loss, deficit, injury, death, or pain. And my family was loaded with all of that stuff. And so I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the hood. My mother started off as a nurse. She ran away from home when she was 16 and put herself through nursing school. She ended up going to medical school later on and becoming the first Black woman on the planet to be the type of physician that she is.
Holy shit. What?
Yeah, my mother's a perinatologist, and there's probably 200 perinatologists in the United States of America. And she was the first Black woman on the planet to be that kind of physician.
That's incredible.
And yeah, it is incredible. And my mother still has a lot of challenges around her self-esteem. She'll be the first person to tell you that I ain't shit, And yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, that's
This is
heartbreaking.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is part of what plagues Black and brown folks in the United States of America is we have been taught no matter what our achievements are, that we're always going to be in some second class citizen space. And that's a whole other part of the trauma and stuff that I've experienced in my life. My father was an x-ray technician, and that's how they met at Coney Island Hospital. She was a nurse. He was an x-ray technician. They got married, had 3 kids. And I watched a lot of really interesting stuff in my mother's family with violence and just, it was crazy. And I grew up really hating myself a lot. You know, I was a person that's considered to be Black, and I have light skin and I have very coarse hair, and was challenged by the people in my neighborhood as to what I was. I was called Puerto Rican. I was called everything except human being. And so I had a lot of questioning myself, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of stuff that went on in my life. I wet the bed until I was 14 years old. And at 14 years old, I decided to stop going to sleep. So I had insomnia from when I was 14 to 44. Okay. 30 years I had insomnia. And so I had a lot of trauma. And when I went to high school, I was trying to get my parents' attention. And so I was bored in school. And so I did my best to flunk out. And then I signed all of my report cards on my parents' behalf. And so my parents didn't really know how I was doing in school. I was really great at lying. So I lied about everything in the world. And when I graduated from high school, by the skin of my teeth, I went to a community college. And at that community college, I took a lot of proficiency exams, and I was placed into honors classes, which was a complete 180 from where I was in high school. And they had a nursing program in the school that was probably one of the best had the best passing rate, not the best, but like the second or third best passing rate in the state of New York for the boards. So I jumped in on it, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be a doctor. And I decided to become a nurse on the way to being a doctor, like my mother, because my mother was my greatest hero, still is. And I graduated from nursing school at the age of 20. And when I graduated, it was 1992. And that was the height of HIV in New York City. And it was when crack was ravaging the United States of America. And so my first 2 years of nursing, and this is something, and this is going to be the first time I'm really talking about this. I usually talk about after my first 2 years, which is when I got into emergency medicine. My first 2 years of nursing, I saw the amount of people I saw die in the hospitals was astounding. And I saw people waste away, and I saw people just disintegrate into nothingness. And it was just death after death after death after death. And I had to actually bury that. And a lot of that came up. And I know we were talking about this earlier before we started. A lot of that came up around the death of a friend of mine 2 weeks ago, a really, really great friend of mine. And in that space, I saw him wither away, and all of the faces that I saw wither away in my first 2 years of nurses started to come back to me. And so I had to navigate all of the stuff that I didn't navigate in my first 2 years of nursing because I completely buried it away. And so I've had a lot of experience with trauma, a lot of experience with drama, a lot of experience with inauthenticity and lying, a lot of experience with burying things inside of my body and watching things come up, like weird thyroid issues. My eyesight, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. I was told I'd be blind by the time I was 40. Like all of these weird things that came up in my body that I have moved beyond by really learning how to be authentic within myself, how to just be myself in my full expression as much as I possibly can, and just letting go of all the shit from my past.
I was just going to say, that's a lot of shit. I was just going to use the word shit. Like, that's crazy. And it's funny how we forget, like, during one of my psilocybin journeys, it was beautiful. It was like this black sky with stars. And all of a sudden, a rainbow line was outlining things. And it was outlining burying a baby. And I couldn't figure out what the hell that was until I was talking to my guide, and she goes, "Did you lose a baby? That's obviously a baby crossing the Rainbow Bridge." And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, I had a miscarriage 19 years ago. Like I was only 15 weeks along, not very long. I didn't even think twice about it, right? But just like, you going through that experience and just kind of putting it behind you, it's amazing what gets stored in our body, and
Oh
then
my gosh.
how and when it comes out sideways typically, right? If we're
Yeah.
not using our tools. Sometimes even when we use our tools, it still comes out sideways.
It, it's a crapshoot, really. You know, the universe has its ways, and the body is a very miraculous machine that can take the energies of things that we haven't processed and place it and stuff it into different places in the body until it's ready for processing, and then it'll come up. And it usually comes up as these weird ailments and diseases and mutations and propensities for certain types of microorganisms to grow. You know, that we have these weird environments that get unleashed in our bodies. It's fascinating. And as a person who went through all of this stuff, I started to crash, physically started to crash as I started to move towards the end of my clinical nursing career. My last shift was in 2016. My last December 12th, 2016 was my last clinical shift as a nurse. And the year before that, I was working in a hospital and I kept saying, I got to get out of here. I was so disenfranchised with what was going on in the system. And it was a complete shit show. It was a nightmare. Like with the nurses I was working with, I was like, do y'all see what's going on here? Do you see how we're creating all these repeat customers? What are you doing? Come on, wake up. And so nobody saw it. And I got lost. I felt alone. I took an oath, a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. And I knew I was sending people for shit that they didn't need and giving them medications I knew was fucking them up. Like I like all of these things were racking my soul. And so I got to a point where I kept saying, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And then I was lifting a really heavy patient and I herniated a disc in my lower back. And so I was playing the sidelines. I was doing personal training on the side because I was looking to migrate out of nursing. I was coaching people and I was doing personal training and I was nursing and I was touring as a musician and a DJ, like all of these things, trying to find my way out. And I injured my back and I couldn't walk for 3 months. And I had just taught Cole, my wife right now, right? My partner, my wife, my business partner. I had taught her about fitness and all of this stuff. And she became a Beachbody's first instructor of the year and all of this stuff. And I cracked my back. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. And she was like, I know what you need. And I was like, what? And she said, well, you know, you need to go for a ceremony. And I was like, well, what's a ceremony? And she said, well, you go into the circle and you sit with these people and you take these plants and you go off into this psychedelic realm and you find yourself. And I was like, oh, you want me to do some drugs with some hippie white people? I was like, I'm not doing that shit. I was like, people get locked up for that in my neighborhood. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I said, you know, I had been brainwashed by the medical industry that anything that alters you except alcohol is the devil. Right? Anything that alters you except alcohol and what big pharma issues you is the devil. And so I was totally afraid. I thought I was going to become a crackhead. Remember, I grew up in the 80s.
Right.
In New York City. And so I thought I was going to become a crackhead if I touched anything. The first time I tried weed, I was 36.
Whoa.
My first alcoholic beverage was 25. Remember, I graduated from nursing school before I was drinking age. And I was afraid that my mother would, if I ever drank anything, that my mother would find out and I would be out of her grace. So I had all of these lies and hiding and all of this stuff that was going on. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And Cole was like, well, what do you have to lose? And I said, shit. I was like, well, I trust you. I'm going to do it for you. And she was like, whatever you need to do to do it. And so I sat for this ceremony and I was frightened off my ass. The first thing that I had was MDA, right? Sassafras, which is kind of like MDMA. And they gave me the lightest dose possible. And it put me into a place where I was so afraid I couldn't understand it. And nobody could understand it at the journey. I was panicking. And what happened was I was starting to actually feel awesome about myself.
Mm.
I was starting to see that I was actually beautiful and that I loved myself. And I was so resistant to it that it became this yuck. There was so much resistance in my body. And there was one point where Cole said to me, what if you just let go? And I let go. And I let go of all the lies I had created. I let go of all of the identities, all of the protecting, in 1 hour. I let go of all of these things and my whole life completely changed. And it changed the whole dynamic of how I see myself, my whole dynamic of how I live, my dynamic of my relationship to my body, all of the things that I had studied and learned about that I couldn't put together. I couldn't put the pieces together. They all synchronized in that one moment. And it changed my trajectory. And I was telling Cole, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never doing this again. This is terrible. And in 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks, right. So I had the opportunity to be around people who knew how to integrate, who were amazing facilitators, who were about not just you going in, taking some substances, having a revelation, but they were about supporting you in integration. And so Cole took me to sit with one of the facilitators, and we sat with him, and he was like, tell me what's going on. And I learned all this stuff about putting the pieces together with what I got from the realms and what I have in the 3D reality. And it changed my life. And so I went back for another experience, maybe a month or two, maybe 2 months later. And I started to expand and open more, and people started to come sit with me, and they started to ask me questions. And I would just talk to them about what was going on with them. And they would have all these realizations based off of all of the body stuff that I had studied, all of the nervous system dynamics, all of the trauma things that I had been through. I was able to help people bring things together and bring things up out of them by simply asking questions and writing their nervous system. And it changed my whole life. And it changed everything that I
do. You thoroughly choked me up. I know. I'm like, ugh. Like, okay, that was beautiful, because it hurts my heart. Like, because I've known you for a while and I've been watching you on social media. I mean, not only are you drop dead fucking gorgeous on the outside, but you are on the inside as well. And it just hurts my heart to hear people like you, and it's shocking. It's still so shocking. People that you would look at on the outside thinking, oh, they've got everything, they got shit figured out. They got stuff locked down, and you have no idea on what they're going on the inside. I ran into a woman like this a couple of weeks ago. She was drop dead gorgeous. She treated me like shit the whole time we were together. And I really took it personally. And I had a hard time until I came home and was telling my husband about the experience. He's like, Heather, I imagine her self-esteem is shit. Think about it. What healthy person treats another person that way, right? And I was just like, God, I just think attractive, rich, that they've got it all. It didn't even dawn on me that she was, probably dealing with some self-esteem issues. And I could have showed up in a little bit nicer, more compassionate way, instead of being so offended and taking it personally. But it's all a learning lesson, right? The beautiful thing about life is that you might have failed this test, but I'm going to get another one. You mark my words, it's going to happen.
You're going to get another one.
I'm going to get a do-over. But thank you for being so candid about all of that. And this is a really great time. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into the Condor method and how we got, why, psychedelics and how they're tied to emotions. And what do we got? We got emotions, disease, and illnesses is the topic of today's conversation. So we'll dive deeper to that. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey there. I used to not be able to drink coffee. I always reacted to it horribly. It hurt my stomach. It made me over jittery and would inflame me and cause histamine issues. But not anymore. Since I started drinking Danger Coffee by Dave Asprey. It's his next level of coffees. He came out with Bulletproof, and now this is the next level up. So it is mold-free, toxin-free, and he infuses it with minerals and electrolytes. So unlike other coffees, they can actually pull minerals and electrolytes from your system because it's too acidic. It actually helps replenish those. And so I don't react to it at all. I get to have my Bulletproof coffee with my MCC oil and my grass-fed butter, and I don't get the jitters, I don't get the crashes, and I love how focused and energized it makes me feel. Again, non-toxic, mold-free, infused with minerals and electrolytes. I absolutely love Danger Coffee. Make sure to check out my website, thelimeBoss.com. Go to the resource section and get yours. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, man. What a beautiful first half. And that's part of the reason why I love talking about this work, is because of all the functional stuff that I've done, of all the bioenergetic stuff that I've done. Some of the most profound and impactful work has been with the psychedelics. And so, like I said, I love bringing this stuff to the forelight and showcasing in a different way, because I too was brainwashed, right? I even worked in the cannabis industry for a little while, and I kind of grew up with that same thing of the reefer madness, right? So it's fascinating what these, big pharma and a lot of these other companies have done to us and done to these beautiful plant medicines, and I want to show things in a different light. So thank you for joining me and helping me do that as well, Tah. So let's dive a little bit deeper into your story.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah. Tell me what you want to hear, what you want to know.
Okay, so we're getting you into psychedelics. Tell us a little bit deeper into your experiences with psychedelics. Like, what's the Condor approach?
Okay.
All that fun stuff.
Yeah. So my experience with psychedelics there was a lot of resistance at the beginning. I was doing drugs. I was doing illegal drugs in somebody's house somewhere. Right. And I was afraid of a lot of things. And the number one thing that I found in the community that I worked with psychedelics was safety. And I found the more safe I was, the more I was able to open up. And so I also learned that the environment wasn't keeping me safe. I was keeping myself safe. I put myself in an environment where I could actually create safety. And so I learned what that was. And so whenever I sat with somebody and they were having challenges, the first thing I would go to is, are you safe right now? What is safety to you? What is safety? And I would ask people over and over again, what is safety? And as they were in the psychedelic space, they were able to open up and actually see that they had never really felt safe in their entire lives. And that was one of the most, it is the most common theme in any psychedelic situation, is people can now see themselves from a different lens. And so I started to see myself from these different lenses, and I started to journal on the aspects of myself that weren't safe. So it was Tah as the little boy, Tah as the nurse, Tah as the personal trainer, Tah as the husband, Tah as the friend, like all of these different aspects of myself. And I was like, okay, well, what's the plan on getting myself into a space where I feel safe enough to be able to connect and then be fulfilled moving through there? And so I learned through psychedelics and the explorations I had about pulling things apart, getting to the root of what was disrupting me and causing me to be uneasy so that I could actually be easy, and then crafting that ease. And there was a point where Cole and I had sat at so many journeys. We used to go help. We wanted to know everything there was to know, right? And so we would go help, we would sit, we would be there with people. And then the facilitators started asking us to come because people were having these radical shifts when we were there because of the conversations we had. And it got to a point where there were some ceremonies that were going on that were highly unsafe. And there were things happening, and people kept coming to Cole and I to help them unravel what was going on in their nervous system outside of the psychedelic space. And so it started happening over and over and over again. And we started to get called into places because there were these disruptive situations happening. And so we came up with a program that we called Facilitation Elevation. This was after, I started psychedelics I think it was the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. And we started Facilitation Elevation in 2017. And 5 years of intensive work in the psychedelic space. And we sat and we created this whole curriculum around creating safety, understanding things, and what integration is. Right. And so we put all this stuff together, and people started to lean into it, and they were like, well, we need more of this. We need more of this. And so we moved from training facilitators into supporting people in integrating. And we created a process called the 4 Ins process. And we teach anybody that wants to have a psychedelic experience to lean into this 4 Ins. And you don't need to go to school or come to our certification for this. It's 4 Ins: intake, intention, in space, and integration. The whole process is integration, but there's a part of it we call traditional integration. Doing an intake is doing an inventory of yourself way before you get into the experience. Why do I want to do this? What's come up for me in my life? What's troubling me? Where am I safe? Where am I unsafe? What are my finances like? What are the relationships I'm in? What are the things that I want to shift in my life? And these are the questions you ask yourself. So you kind of do an inventory, and you kind of it's like there's a stew that you've made and there's stuff stuck to the bottom of the pot. So you want to kind of scrape around at the bottom of the pot and get the stuff to the top, so the psychedelics don't have to go in moving shit out of the way and pulling and dragging to get to the root. You've already stirred the pot, so things are free flowing in the pot. The psychedelics can just go in and bring things to the surface that you really want. So it doesn't have to fight. And so there's less of a fight. There's less of a pulverizing or high dose situation that you need to do when you've stirred the pot beforehand. So doing an intake is tremendously important. The next part would be intention. What do you want to know? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? And what do you want to understand from your experience? Okay. What do I want to know, do, be, understand from my experience? That's my intention. Now, an intention is not an expectation. And we ask people to let go of expectations with psychedelic experiences, because it's really like you're pulling the slot machine arm, right? When you're going for it. What you can do is influence things by stirring the pot beforehand, having an intention that you want to explore, having a guide or somebody with you that if you fall off, they could be like, hey, are you still interested in this intention? Let's get you back on your intention, so that you can kind of move back into that space, because psychedelics can be very feminine and chaotic and all over the place. And so to be able to have a guide that's kind of like a masculine situation to kind of swat you back into where you need to be is a perfect space. So having an intention is very important in that space if you're looking to actually influence what's going on. Being in the space itself would be the transformational space, would be the psychedelic experience, your coaching experience, or whatever you want to have, whatever you call it, your microdosing experience. And in the space, we have something we call set and setting. Now, most people would say the set is the mindset. The way we work, it's your mindset, your body set, your construct set, which would be your identity, your relationships, your religion, race, gender, blah, 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 all the things that you adhere to. Your social set, which would be your interactive spaces, your emotional set, and your financial set. All of these things are very, very important to understand where you are, and having a facilitator that actually knows these things can help swat you back into where you need to be. So having that is very important, and setting up your setting where you're having your transformational situation. You're not having a journey in a graveyard somewhere with exhumed bodies. Listen, I've had people come to me, I don't understand why my psychedelic experience is so crazy. Well, where did you have it? In a warehouse, in an abandoned warehouse that's supposed to be haunted? Like, why are you doing this here? So this has a lot to do with people's experiences, or they're journeying at a rave. It's like, I was at a rave and these people were angry over here and these people were happy over here, and I came back so confused. Okay, so your setting is important. And so knowing that your set and setting are really important to support your expansion into a different space. You can have as much control as you possibly can over your setting, right? And that's an important space. The fourth space is integration, and that's how we tie things together. Remember, when we're disintegrated, we kind of pull things apart. And when we integrate, we bring them together. And so we can become whole with the new information, or the new way we see the information. And moving forward, if we have a new way of being, we have to integrate that with our family members, with our careers, with our money, with how we interact with our food, and so on. And so I call it the integration wave. It's intake, intention, in space, integration. We're always doing it in life. Intake, intention, in space, integration. Intake, intention, in space, integration. And that becomes the frequency of life over and over again. And it can move so fast that you don't know what's happening. And so, like, when you wake up in the morning and you go into the bathroom and you grab your toothbrush, there's an intention to clean your mouth, right? You've done an intake, you've surveyed, there's toothpaste in the toothbrush. You're doing all of these things all the time. Are you intentional about it? And have you created a space that you actually see that you're the person influencing what's going on? And that's the basis of the Condor approach. And in that space, we have a lot of different tools and a lot of things that people can use for practical applications of their psychedelic experiences in their day-to-day life.
That's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Put that together so eloquently, so succinctly. Like, it is so true. Like, sadly, a couple of my last couple of ones were done not in the best setting, and there was like next to no integration afterwards, and it really does leave a person to feel really fucking lost, because you have like blown apart all this stuff, and then it's just still swirling all around, and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? And thank God, me being me, I have enough agency about me to ask for help in other places if I'm not getting it where you think that you kind of need to, so I was able to help put that stuff together, but definitely a lesson learned. So that's great that you guys have come up with such a beautiful, like, way of supporting people before, during, and like after, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I appreciate that acknowledgement and that reflection. This is now my life's work. Okay. I have moved away from nursing. I moved away from training, all of these things. I coach people one-on-one. That's something that I dive into, but everything that I do is integration. But this methodology is my life's work. And we are supporting people with the wave that's happening right now with psychedelics. I'm not sure if you're aware of what's going on in the stock market. There's a website called psychedelicinvest.com that you can take a look at. The psychedelic investment market right now is over $4 billion.
Shut
Billion.
up.
And it's not even legal. It's not even legal in most places.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
incredible.
and so there's a lot happening that's bubbling under the surface as legislations get passed and things get decriminalized and legalized. Psychedelics are on a huge uptick. And so we are at a very ripe space for people to be able to really have something to lean into. You know, as they were starting to remove the sanctions and all of the things from cannabis, there was no systems in place for people to integrate cannabis. There still aren't, right? People are not integrating a lot of, they can't. It's just like, here, take these. And on the bottle, it says, yeah, take this dose, but you might have to adjust it for yourself and, you'll figure it out. But I don't know anybody who's integrating these things. And you can use our methodology. We have people that work in cannabis spaces that use it to integrate their cannabis experiences. And so this methodology is not just about psychedelics. It's about all kinds of things. And being a nurse, one of the things that challenged me the most is I would send people home with discharge instructions and they would come back with the same crap over and over again because there was nobody to support them in integrating what happened with them, to talk to them about what their diagnosis actually meant, how to integrate with food, how to integrate with you now have a diagnosis. You are dealing with shame probably, right? Something's wrong with me. You go back home and your family's looking for you to be the way you were before you went into the hospital. So there's no integration going on. And so this is a really pinnacle moment for us to move integration, not just into psychedelics, but every wellness format on the planet.
That is 100%. Like I can't even, when I had my uterus removed, when I had a freaking hysterectomy, nobody prepared me for like the sense of loss that I all of a sudden experienced of a piece of me gone. Like there was no integration and I didn't even think that there was going to be anything along those lines until one day I'm driving down the road and it hit me and I had to pull over and it was like this panic attack and this sense of loss and this grieving. And it was crazy and I can't be the only one who's experienced that, right? So why aren't we integrating? Why aren't we setting people up for, this is what you've been through, this is what to expect, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, yeah. So I'd love to take a breath and honor your honesty and thank you for sharing that. That's a big deal to me.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, fam. And this is one of the things that we have discounted as professionals in the wellness industry is the emotional body and the complex of the individual human being and the idea around loss and disintegration. When you have a piece of your body removed, there is a disintegration. Something was integrated and now it has been removed. And so even if it was under anesthesia and there were professionals, this is a form of violence. Whenever we become unwhole, it is a form of violence. And I'm not saying violence is good or bad. If you put a fly in a spider web, the spider is going to come and disintegrate that fly, right? And that is a part of nature, right? It's a part of, and that is still a violent circumstance. So when we become unwhole, if I feel like I'm beautiful and somebody comes and calls me ugly and I start to believe that I'm ugly, now I'm disintegrated. That is a form of violence. And so when we have surgery, this is one of the things that most people don't understand. You can be under anesthesia, but when that blade cuts you, your body is very much aware that it is being disrupted and that it is being disintegrated. And so there's a whole emotional component that comes with that, even if we bury it, even if we don't look at it, that's going to come up later on, or it's going to manifest in some other way. And so this is where integration is tremendously important, is How do we become whole with what has happened to us? How do we get the environment to support who we are? How do we get our families to support us? How do we get our social media following? Like you saw me 2 weeks ago, one of my best friends in the world died. I was an absolute mess crying. Like the amount of outreach that has come to me from the relationships that I've built on social media is tremendous. People are still calling me to check in on me, and I'm so grateful for it. Tah, how you doing, man? Just checking in on you. Just checking in on you. I know you're a human being too, and you support a lot of people. I have set up my environment to know how to support me on autopilot. That's integration. And if you're going to have surgery, if you're going to have any kind of medical procedure or anything that changes you in your life, you got to have some kind of support system. We are products of our environment. And if the environment does not support us, we're going to get whatever random shit happens, you know? And yeah, so I know it's a little bit of a rant, but I'm so passionate about this stuff.
No, I love it. I love it.
I'm so passionate about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting to the end here. So what are kind of some last little nuggets that you want to drop on people?
Oh, gosh. Nuggets. One, psychedelics are wonderful. Get somebody, if you're going to work with psychedelics, get somebody who knows what they're doing, what they're talking about. For me, it pays to hire, a coach or something to support you in integrating. If you don't have a coach or something, Cole and I have created a guide that's available worldwide for free download that you can get to help you integrate anything in your life, not just psychedelic experiences. Psychedelics are awesome. I have never seen in my entire career, I've been a nurse for 31 years, I have never seen anything support people in transforming themselves and getting to the root cause of things like psychedelics. Nothing is why I've made my life about this. So that's a thing. Get integrated and have some fun, y'all. Like seriously, have fun. When we get into a space where we are fully relaxed, that is where most of the healing and the integration happens on a physical level, on an energetic level, on a psychological level. All of these different spaces happen when we are relaxed, and nothing can put you in a relaxation space more. And I'm not talking about rest. I'm talking about relaxation. Nothing puts you in more of a relaxed space than having some fun. Have fun. Right? It's so important to be in that space, to be in that emotional space, because that moves us into a gratitude space. And gratitude is one of the exalted emotions that has the highest frequency level, where our immune systems are working the best. Our protein creation complexes are at most ease and most optimal. So lean into it, y'all. Let's have some fun. Call yourself Sourcey Poo because you are a little piece of the source of everything. And so that's why I call you Sourcey Poo.
I was wondering where that came from. And thank you for that reminder, because as a entrepreneur who's had multiple autoimmune diseases, us type A personalities have a hard time sometimes having fun, having joy. We've got a task list that's 1.5 miles long, and that little task master behind us going, whoosh, whoosh. Mm-hmm. You haven't done all the things on your list. You can't have fun. And really, it needs to be the other way around, because I get so much more done. I'm so much more magnetic. I'm such a powerful manifester, right? When I take that time, enjoy.
Yeah, it's really important. One of the things we do teach about at the Condor approach is constructs, and our constructs being the structures that we live in, we live on. Our identities are constructs. And if we build our constructs outside of the fun space, we build our constructs in a very restrictive space where the energy doesn't get to move around. And so we take the old energy, put it in a box, and we hold it there, and the energy's bouncing around inside that box. And that box are these bodies, right? And so we're in these bodies. If that energy can't move, it becomes disruptive. And that can be something where the energy inside becomes a complex where it is looking to move and it becomes disruptive. And then the body looks to fight or fix or remedy something, and it becomes these autoimmune complexes. So, let's get integrated with these constructs, family. Let's live. Let's have a good time. Come to the Condor approach. I would love to see you there. Awesome to have you there.
Oh my God. I would love to so much.
Come.
I know. I just have to figure out how. Yeah. Anywho, that's another story.
At some point. Ain't going nowhere.
That's true. And so that's a great segment. So how can people find out more about the Condor approach? Yeah,
condorapproach.com. CONDOR approach.com is the website. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Condor Approach. We are doing 3-day events for everybody in the world who wants to come. It's a 5-day event for the people who have signed up to be coaches with us. And that's not a mandatory thing, to come learn these concepts and learn how to integrate. The community that we have is wonderful. People love these concepts. They've applied it to their lives, with their children, with their businesses, and so on. And it's been absolutely game changing for all the people that have come. So come check us out at thecondorapproach.com. Also, we have on that website, we have that integration guide. That free integration guide is there. We have a 7-day course that's available for you. We have lots of resources. Please utilize the resources, y'all.
That's incredible. Yeah, if you think that the Condor approach, this sounds familiar. Well, it's because I've had Cole, his partner, on, a few episodes before this. So it's not very often that I have two people, talking about the same thing, but I'm just so in awe of what they're doing and love what they're doing that and both of them as individuals and together are just absolutely incredible. So I was like, I want to play with you both.
Yay. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. And listen, this has been fun. It's been wonderful. We'd love to come back. We'd love to have you on our podcast too, the Psychedelic Coach podcast, to come talk about things. I have people that I'm going to send to you. I just did an interview with somebody who works in the Lyme space as well. Nice. So I'll send her your way. Thank you, fam. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for how you show up on social media. Thank you for all of this. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Everybody, if you have been inspired with just even a nugget of something that has inspired you, please share, like, and subscribe, right? Because that's how we get this information out into the world. That's how we shift the change of being, deathly afraid of plant medicine to bringing it into the light where it needs to be. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me today, and make sure to have a healthy day. Thanks for joining me. If you learned anything, even one little nugget in any episode, please do not keep us a secret. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple, on Spotify. That is how we get this information out there, and we change this paradigm one person at a time. I can't do it by myself. I need your help. Also, make sure to know that disclaimer, anything that you hear on this, you cannot hold Discovering Health LLC, Renegade Health Boss, the Lyme Boss, or Heather Gray liable for anything. Always consult your doctor before doing anything new. Do not take this as medical advice. This is your disclaimer. And then also, if you want to know the foundations of health, right? All that I talk about on how I get healthy, the absolute foundation: sleep, diet, exercise, what to eat, toxins, how to detox mold, all of it. You can get it in your own course at rhbcourses.com. Right? Start your healing journey today, as little as $79. Start today, rhbcourses.com. Stay tuned, and thanks for joining us.